Breaking news. Good afternoon, good evening. It is 1 a.m. Welcome to Villainous News. I am your host, Mr. Bay, along with Louis Conyer here.
How you doing?
Doing all right. Apparently, bird flu has made its way across the sands and the waters and the seas, and looks like America's in trouble with its cattle industry. Shall we get to the story? All
Yes, we
right.
should.
Bird flu found in cows at Third Dairy AG agency reports. Story comes from us from Donnell Eller from the Des Moines Register on the 12th. Well, this was yesterday, 5:38 p.m. was the last update. A third dairy herd in Iowa has tested positive, highly pathogenic avian influenza, the state departments of agriculture reported Wednesday. The 1,700 cow herd is in Sioux County, where the state's second dairy outbreak was reported Friday. The first was reported June 5th in O'Brien County, which neighbors Sioux County in northwest Iowa. Dairy cows infected with bird flu, also called H5N1, typically recover with supportive care. Cows usually lose their appetite and experience a decrease in milk production, among other symptoms. The
And this
vi-
is just go ahead.
Go on.
No, I was saying this is hitting America now. First it
Yeah.
affected South America, now it's hitting our cattle industry.
Oh, yeah. The virus, however, is fatal to birds, and state and federal officials require all poultry infected flocks to be killed to prevent its spread. The disease is believed to be carried by migrating wild birds that often don't appear sick. Iowa has had two bird flu outbreaks so far this year, one hitting 4.2 million hens in Sioux County in May, the other 103,000 turkeys in Cherokee County this month. Since 2022, Iowa, the nation's leading egg producer, has destroyed 23.3 million chickens, turkeys, and other poultry to control the disease. That's a lot of meat.
Yes, sir.
That is a lot of meat. How are your meat prices?
What was that?
How are your meat prices?
Well, hold on. Right now beef has been up 30%. Like I had told BGS last month, look out for beef to go up. And in our store, what we're doing is we're cutting thinner slices than usual, so the prices look normal, but the prices are actually higher. If you want
Wow.
a thicker cut of meat, it's going to be higher price. But what people fail to realize, also with cattle, it's not just your meat that is affected. You got your broth, your stock, your canned meats, pet food. We've been having shortages on certain beef, cat, and dog food. Dog like the bones, the treats, the strips. So anything that you could think of that is made out of beef, even your beef bouillon, is going to be affected.
What about your dairy?
Milk has been fine because the farmers that we have, they have the dairy cows,
Okay.
and we in Jersey have been doing testing, so nothing so far has affected our supply.
All right. I
Yeah.
guess the egg supply is okay.
Yes.
All right. The virus has spread to cattle in 11 states, in addition to Iowa. And three U.S. dairy workers who were in contact with infected cows have been diagnosed with mild cases of bird flu. Mexico last week reported the first human bird flu death in the current wave of infections, according to the World Health Organization. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the current public health risk is low, but the agency is watching the situation carefully and working with states to monitor people with animal exposures. Federal officials also say the U.S. food supply is safe. Only milk from healthy animals is allowed in the food chain, and most milk is pasteurized to kill harmful bacteria and viruses. Federal officials warned Friday, though, that Iowans shouldn't drink raw milk since it may be a route of consumer exposure to the virus. Who the hell is drinking raw milk in Iowa?
There is a movement. It's been going on for the past 15, 20 years that they claim that raw milk is more healthier for you because you get more of the healthy nutrients that is killed through pasteurization.
But
Some
you're
of that
drinking
has been
cow.
proven, but when you milk the cow, there's a lot of bacteria and stuff that is unhealthy and dangerous. So
We're
a
not
lot of
on
the
the.
Amish they deal with raw milk and butter that is made from raw milk.
Hmm. Also on Friday, Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig, I hope I said that right, or is it Naig? Looks like it's Naig, Naig. Mike
Yeah,
Naig
yep.
said the agency has requested federal aid for affected Iowa poultry and dairy farms and assistance in disease research and response. The measures include compensation for dairy cattle culled because of the disease and for loss of dairy production, and updated indemnity tables for poultry that better reflect the fair market value of the impacted birds and or eggs. In other words, they want to get paid for what they had to destroy.
Yep.
In addition to other measures, the Agriculture Department said it would test dairy operations near infected poultry flocks for H5N1. And that is that story there. So that's where we're sitting. What's going on there, Joez? They said I've seen that, bought a lot of beef, got goofy, but need my burgers on July 4th. What's going on, Zoomer Generation? Oh, I'm like, who's Red Pill Sleepy? I forgot that's you. Lewis there. What's up, BGS? Punch in bird flu and gain a function. So
And you got to get your deep freezer filled up.
yeah, I mean, luckily, I took care of that over the past 6, 8 months, 9 months. I've been on top of it. Sucker is full. All these freezers are filled, to be honest. Got if it's not vegetables, it's meats. What's going on there,
Hey,
James?
BGS. Remember, you was listening yesterday to Art New Styles room, and we were talking about the food and everything. I looked the thing up, and a bunch of cattle is already infected. They found today, well, yesterday rather, because today's a new day, out in the Midwest with the ranchers affected by the bird flu.
Do you want to give the people the link if they want to come up and chat?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. So Andrew McDaniel says milk and other dairy products is one of the leading causes of high cholesterol, including meat and chicken. I'm cutting back. Smart choice. See.
How do you share the link? Where's it at?
Oh, where it says invite. At the bottom where it says invite. You hit that, and then there's a big blue button that says copy.
I don't see invite on here. I think because you're the primary.
That might be so. Let me see. That pop up. What's going on, Carlton Way? So you say you bought your deep freezer before COVID when I saw in 2019 something. Understandable. So that's pretty much where we're sitting right now. I do believe that Walmart, let's see, I believe they had the pull meat. Let's take a look here. Yeah, this was last month.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was in Walmart the other day because I had to buy a new rice cooker and bought some vegetables. And they had mainly a lot of pre-packed ground beef, just like here. It wasn't no steaks or nothing, and it was a lot of Purdue chicken mostly. There was
Okay.
no steaks, and usually Walmart can have a lot of steaks roasted and everything. And I went early in the day where that stuff would have been packed out because Walmart deals strictly with pre-packed meat. They don't have butchers. That's how they save with labor because butchers demand a high rate of pay. So it's strictly pre-packed meat, and it was all just ground beef. I seen no steaks or nothing whatsoever.
All right. Let's get into
And they
this.
flooded the case that would have been the beef section with
Mhm.
poultry.
Wow. Stuff they can't get rid of. All right. More than 16,000 pounds of ground beef sold at Walmart recalled over E. coli risk. This was last month, May 4th. Let's see. Over 16,000 pounds of ground beef produced by Cargill Meat Solutions and sold at Walmart have been recalled due to concerns of a possible E. coli contamination. The contaminated beef was produced on April 26th and 27th and distributed to Walmart stores throughout the eastern U.S., according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So far, there have been no confirmed reports of illness linked to the beef products, USDA said. Cargill said it launched a voluntary recall out of an abundance of caution, excuse me, I'm sounding like Tiffany Henyard. The Pennsylvania-based food distributor became concerned of a possible contamination after discovering that previously segregated product had been inadvertently utilized in the production of ground beef, the agency said. That doesn't make sense. That's a serious human error right there. You could have killed thousands. The ground beef has been sold at Walmart locations in Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and New York. Yeah, that's all up and down that eastern seaboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only place it looks like they didn't get to was South Carolina, but they stretched it all the way to Ohio. Okay. Let's see. The Cargill products subject to recall include 2.2 pounds of plastic wrap trays containing 93% lean, 7% fat, all natural lean ground beef. 1.33 pounds of plastic wrap trays containing 4 prime rib steak burger patties. 2.25 pounds of plastic wrap trays containing 85% lean, 15% fat, all natural Angus premium ground beef. Oh, those are the ones that be in those middle shelves in the meat section.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2.25 pound bags of plastic wrap trays containing 80% lean, 20% fat, all natural ground beef chuck. 1.33 pounds of plastic wrap trays containing 4 80% lean, 20% fat, all natural ground beef chuck patties. Wow, this is like right around the time people normally do their 4th of July shopping.
Yeah, cookout season.
Yeah. 1.33 pound plastic wrap trays containing 4 90% lean, 10% fat, all natural ground beef sirloin patties. Ooh, not the sirloin patties. USDA advises consumers to throw away or return the contaminated products to the place of purchase. So these are, yeah, this is what they're recalling. They look like this. If you bought anything that looked like this, ladies and gentlemen, return it to your nearest Walmart. Do make sure you have your receipt. Get your money back. Get you some bird flu chicken instead. Okay. Ba-dum-dum-ting. Bird flu chicken. Okay. Oh, and this episode is brought to you courtesy of Red Rock. Ginger ale. Just
What
pretend that
flavor?
it's not soda.
Some of them steaks be glued together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm about to put up. I'm gonna share this screen with. Hold on. Let me share this. I'm gonna play this part of True News with them talking about this.
Go ahead.
All right.
Food and water.
Humans who were
All right. Just fair use. This is a highly conservative, right-wing, Christian-based news site. They criticize both sides of the fence. We're just presenting this. Doesn't mean we agree or disagree with it. We're just presenting the information.
Is coming. Procrastination.
Let me
But not a break from my neighbor.
and state fairs.
Crisis suddenly appears. Be ready. Be wise. Go to AmericanReserves.com.
The bird flu virus is spreading to more American cattle and poultry farms. The virus is also impacting Australian farms as well. As more dairy and chicken farms are infected, calls are increasing for mass livestock vaccination. Now, some officials propose farm quarantines, protective clothing for farmers, and stringent health rules for county and state fairs. Meanwhile, Big Pharma is ramping up testing of mRNA vaccines for cattle. Will cows suffer from sudden death syndrome like humans who were vaxxed? We'll see the near elimination of livestock over the next 2 years. I'm Doc Burkhardt. This is True News for Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024. Rick Walls is joining us from his home where there's a break in the rain. Hello,
There's a
Rick.
break in the rain, but not a break from my neighbor's howling dogs.
Okay.
So I think they heard you talk about mass vaccination of animals, and
And they're in protest. So
they started howling right away on cue. Doc, we're seeing trends developing here in recent days that are very reminiscent of early COVID days. And I think we would be wise to pay very close attention and consider the possibility that the psychopaths who gave us COVID are now plotting a bovine massacre. And I'm going to show you, Doc and I, we've got some articles here to show you, some interviews, and then we'll have some comments on it. But let's start, Doc, with this first article, and we'll work our way through this discussion. This is a PBS, Public Broadcasting System. Bird flu outbreak at dairy farms continues to raise concerns about virus spreading. And Doc, I'll let you read the intro, and then we've got some video clips from this PBS article.
Well, the H5N1 virus, Rick, also known as the bird flu, is, of course, spreading among dairy cows, as we've been reporting now for weeks. It's been found in over 85 herds across 12 states, and at least 3 farm workers have been sickened. And while public health officials say the risks to humans continues to remain low, concerns are growing. William Brangham discussed the threat. PBS's William Brangham discussed the threat with Rick Bright, former head of the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. We have a portion of that interview here. Let's watch this, and we'll come back for comments.
The H5N1 virus, also known as bird flu, is spreading rapidly among dairy cows. It's been found in over 85 herds across 12 states. At least 3 farm workers have now been sickened by the virus. And while public health officials say the risks to humans remain low, concerns are growing. William Brangham has more.
So how serious is this threat? And are we doing enough to keep our eyes on this evolving virus? To answer that, we are joined by Rick Bright. He's the former head of BARDA, which is the U.S. government's lead agency for developing countermeasures for public health emergencies. Rick Bright, thank you so much for being here. You have called this a, quote, dangerous inflection point that we are in right now. And you recently wrote, quote, that if we keep ignoring the warning signs, we have only ourselves to blame. What are the warning signs that you're seeing right now, and how are we ignoring them?
Well, William, thanks for bringing more attention to this crisis, this situation. We're seeing more and more animals, mammals in particular, infected with this virus, and clearly a sustained ability to infect dairy cattle and spread from cow to cow. And we know that people are really in close contact with these mammals, and the more mammals are infected, more contact we have with them, the more risk we have of infecting people. And we're starting to see that happen over the last couple of months with 3 human cases.
So we've seen these several farm workers that you mentioned. The CDC mentioned that this most recent farm worker, the one in Michigan, exhibited somewhat different symptoms than the others had. Why is that particularly troubling?
Well, it's really important to understand that to spread this virus efficiently from person to person, it's going to have to get in the respiratory tract. And this latest infection in this patient showed that the patient had respiratory symptoms, meaning he was coughing, for example. The 2 prior cases only had an eye infection. It's much harder to spread a virus from an eye infection than it is from a respiratory infection when you're coughing. And so that is really an important development causing great concern.
And we have not yet seen any transmission from a human to a human. All these cases have thus far been 1 or more animals to 1 human, correct?
Well, William, that's where I'm really concerned when I talk about we're not doing enough about it, is we really don't know how many humans have been infected with this virus. And to date, there's been very limited to almost no serology testing done among any of the cases, the close contacts on the farm or their family members. So it's really hard for us to know how many people have been exposed and if there really is any human-to-human transmission or not.
And we'll have more of that interview here in just a few moments, but we want to give Rick an opportunity to respond to what he's heard so far here. On the one hand, they say they're not that concerned, and then on the other hand, they say we're at an inflection point, Rick. So which is it?
We're at the inflection point. The key thing that he said was that a farm worker, the latest farm worker in America to be infected with bird flu virus, has exhibited respiratory symptoms. That's the warning sign. The other people had pink eye.
Right.
And as the gentleman said, Mr. Bright, that it's difficult to spread a virus to somebody else when the infection is in your eye.
Well, when he said that, my first reaction was, if anyone's had kids or you grew up as a kid and you've ever had pink eye, the whole family would sometimes get it at times. So even that is infectious, but not as infectious as respiratory. And so that's right. The key factor there.
Because with the pink eye, you have the infected person rubbing their eyes and touching other people. Yes. Okay. With respiratory ailments, you're coughing, and the droplets of
saliva,
body fluids are coming out, and they're carrying the virus. So that's where you get your human to human transmission of a virus. What he's saying is, we have our first case of a human who has some respiratory problems. That's the big warning sign. So we could be weeks away from an announcement that bird flu has moved into the human population and is now transmissible by airborne means.
Right.
When that happens, you're going to see the Gretchen Whitmers of the world, the governor of Michigan. You're going to see the Andrew Cuomo's, former governor of New York.
I want to pause for a minute. We're not giving no medical advice. We're just presenting the information. But I just want y'all to think about when COVID happened, how quick it spread. We have no insight on what's going on. We're just presenting the information. Fair use, fair use. We're not experts on this. We're not scientists. We're not giving out medical advice or nothing. We're a parody. We're a comedy. We're just showing this.
They're going to go into action, and it's going to be COVID Part 2.
That's right.
And get ready for it, folks. This can happen in a matter of weeks. We don't
sit here and talk about it. Let's actually read it. As of June 12, 2024, the World Health Organization reported 888 human cases of bird flu infection between January of 03 and March 28 of 24, with 463, that's 52%, of those cases resulting in death. The H5N1 strain of bird flu has been responsible for 463 deaths since the first human case in 1997. However, some say that the 50% mortality rate may be an overestimate, as there may be cases where people have no symptoms, are only mildly symptomatic, or haven't sought care for their symptoms. All right, you go back.
Play it.
That's on
You
your
want me to
end.
play it?
Yeah, that's on your end. Yeah.
know. Well, just look back, think back to the early spring of 2020. You know, Doc and I, we did our first report on COVID on, I think it was January 6th of 2020. By, in February, late February, we had traveled with President Trump to Davos, Switzerland.
Right.
And we came back saying, hey, the Chinese were coughing over everybody. And, something's going on. That was the end of February. By March, this country was going into lockdown.
Right. And the first time we were ever taken off YouTube was immediately after a report we did on COVID at that time. And so
that's right.
And so
they were squashing anybody telling the truth.
Right.
They made sure that nobody could be heard who was telling the truth about COVID. They're going to do the same thing again with bird flu. By the way, we were permanently banned from TikTok yesterday. How in the world what do you have to do to be banned from TikTok? TikTok is the trash can of social media. I mean, anything is on TikTok, but we got permanently banned yesterday. What did I say that is so outrageous, so dangerous that it far surpasses any of the weirdos and fruitcakes and crazy people that can be seen any time of the day on TikTok? But the censorship is still in place.
Yes.
And the moment this bird flu virus starts spreading, and people like you and me and our audience, we start putting two and two together and go, hey, wait a minute. This is what they did to us with COVID. They're getting ready to do it again, but they're going to start on the farms. The moment we start talking like that, the internet police are going to show up again.
Right.
And people are going to be deplatformed. You're going to lose your accounts. You're going to be shut down so that you cannot spread truth. See, truth is the virus they fear.
That's correct. Yes.
They fear airborne truth. Truth being spoken. Truth coming out of the mouths of people. It's airborne. Words. They fear airborne truth. And they're going to lock down the country again. So get ready for it. It's coming. We have another part to this this PBS interview, but Doc, go ahead. I know you wanted to say something.
Well, I was just going to say in the second half of this clip here from PBS interviewing Rick Bright, he addresses some of the challenges in being able to test farm workers at these dairy farms and everything, and also answers the question, how do we incentivize the dairy farms and the people that are involved in this sector of agriculture to basically adhere to the new rules that are coming down? And so this is the continuation of that interview with Rick Bright on PBS. Let's watch.
And how do you explain that? Why is it, given that there are certainly enough researchers like yourself within the federal government who understand the potential here, why isn't that we're not doing more testing?
Well, we're finding that it's not always a case of not having enough tests in this situation, but we have tests at the CDC, for example, but the problem is getting access to the workers to test them. So there are a number of issues and barriers that we're encountering, and some of those have to do with the workforce itself. A large part of the workforce on the dairy farms are undocumented immigrants. And there's concern among those workers about being tracked or traced by the government, and they might have to face immigration issues. There are also concerns of the farmers and the people who own the farms. If the federal government or even state government were to come onto the farm, find a widespread outbreak in animals or people, have to shut down the farm, perhaps lose their workforce and lose their income. And there's not enough incentives to really break through those barriers right now.
And what would those incentives be? I mean, I understand a farmer not wanting to have a scarlet letter put on their herd or on their farm. And I understand what you're saying about the workers as well. But how do we incentivize people to do the right thing to keep us all safe?
We're going to have to put some measures in place to ensure that the workers who get tested have the right care that they need, the right health care, because many of them don't have health insurance. If they lose work because they're sick and we want them to not go back into that environment, then there should be compensation for sick leave and for those lost wages. If a farmer has to put down a cow or keep more cows out of the commission longer, instead of putting them back on the milking line while they might still be infected, then we have to compensate the farmers for the loss of that cow or for the loss of that milk production.
So the government says that the milk supply is safe, that pasteurization kills the virus. They say that the human cases we've seen don't indicate that the threat to us as humans is severe. How worried are you that this could become the next pandemic?
Well, I'm more worried right now, William, about the information and the data that we're missing than the data that we have. So if you just looked on the surface, and that's really all we're seeing right now, there may not be too many immediate flares of concern of a forest fire or so. But if you look beneath that surface, if we do more testing, we might see that this virus is changing in remarkable ways that would give it an advantage if it were to really infect people and transmit easily person to person. Since we're being blindfolded in this battle right now, I'm really concerned that the virus is winning the game and getting ahead of us.
So you heard him. He's concerned, and he's the guy that's in the middle of this whole push on global health. He's the CEO of Bright Global Health, and so it worries him. It's worrying him.
It does. So Doc, what I heard there is, I heard the government saying to farmers.
All right. So there was something that the other guy said, the PBS guy said. He was saying that the workers who are, of course, undocumented, which are allowed to be here now, are afraid of being deported, which is not going to happen. But they are more so worried. If I was them, I would be more so worried about being able to pay the bills, which is a big concern. And compensation for those farmers for their employees, be they documented or undocumented, doesn't really make a difference. They need to be compensated. So that way, when everything comes back, they have a workforce ready to go. Get these guys in there. The government needs to come in there, set up the tents, get these guys tested, make sure that they're clear. They're cleared from bird flu and are able to go back to work, be with their families, no hospitalization. But at the same time, it's something that because these guys are undocumented, they can't afford health. Let's be honest, they can't afford health insurance. When you have undocumented workers, you're not paying them what you would pay a regular American person. So let's say they're just going to pay them minimum wage. It's like $15 an hour. You know damn well they're paying these undocumented people at least $5 below minimum wage under the table.
And even if they're sick, they're going to move. Let's say they're sick and they move around the general population, it could be spread.
Yeah, right. So you need to get in there quickly as the government. You need to, if you call yourself trying to contain this situation, you need to get in there like yesterday or 3 weeks ago. You have to get up in there. You have to do the safety measures. You've got to follow the protocols. Not just for the general safety of Americans, but also for the health and safety of the food industry. I mean, this is a big issue. You know how much meat and dairy comes out of those plants out there?
Yeah, and I remember when COVID happened, when they just did a mass shutdown on the whole infrastructure, a lot of things were severely affected.
Right.
And even when they kept a lot of the slaughterhouses and stuff, a lot of people were infected and unfortunately passing away and spreading it to other workers, and they were forced to shut down. And although they were considered essential, just the mass spread of the COVID, it shut everything to a near halt.
Craziness. All right. You can start back up.
The dairy farmers, we're gonna have to kill off your entire herd, but don't worry, we're gonna give you a government check for all the dairy cattle we kill.
Right.
And so we're going to compensate you for it. So the dairy farmer is going to be standing there, realizing you've got government agents in hazmat suits on the farm,
Right.
saying we're locking down your farm. We're not going to allow you to sell any milk. You can't move your tractors. You can't move anything. The entire farm is locked down, and you can't sell your cattle. You can't move your cattle to another field.
No, you have to destroy them.
You have to destroy them. But here's a government check, and when it's over, you won't have any cattle. But you've got this check.
Exactly.
You get the money for the cattle we killed. That's what I'm hearing in this. That. What did we hear out of Europe with the farmer protest? That the European Union politicians said, we're going to have to find ways to incentivize the farmers to accept global warming restrictions.
Right.
They know that they have to waive money to get people to do things. Now, something else that Mr. Bright said that contradicts NBC News. So who would I believe, Mr. Bright or NBC News? Which one is spreading medical disinformation? Maybe he's not informed, or maybe NBC News was publishing medical disinformation and they should be banned from social media. He said that pasteurization destroys the virus and the milk is safe to drink. But I will remind you that on April 25th, NBC News reported 1 in 5 samples of pasteurized milk contain virus fragments.
That's right, Rick.
So who is informed, or who is spreading disinformation? And who should I quote? Because if I quote the wrong one, I'll be accused of disinformation. Which one is it, Doc?
Well, the whole pattern is disinformation, Rick.
Davis Health, April 25th. 1 in 5 samples from grocery stores tested positive for bird flu. Who is spreading disinformation? Which one should I quote? Because if I quote the wrong one, I'm then accused of pushing disinformation. So we have different voices here. We have one person in the health industry saying the milk is safe. We have NBC News reporting months ago, 1 out of every 5 boxes of milk that was tested in grocery stores tested positive for bird flu.
Wait, what? Stop.
So, Doc, we're sitting.
So they already have bad milk out there, but they haven't called for a recall?
It was the recall. It was in certain areas of the country. It wasn't
Like
nationwide.
where? Wait. Okay,
Because you
so
gotta
just this month, on the 4th, Cresilac, they wound up recalling powdered goat milk, infant formula. The hell out of here. Food and beverages, foodborne illness, infant formula and foods, Chronobacter, SPP contamination. The dairy manufacturers.
Because you gotta remember the dairy farmers, they're regional because of the low shelf life of the product, and the milk has to be shipped at a certain temperature. That's why all your dairy farm, like the milk, a lot of companies, they're just contract out to your local dairy farmers. Like where I live at, we get stuff from New Jersey and New York. If you're in PA, there's a lot of dairy farms there, so you'll get stuff depending on where you're at in Pennsylvania. You'll probably get stuff from like the Ohio Valley over to serve that area. So Florida, Georgia, Carolinas. So depends on where you live at. That's where you're going to get your milk from. It's not nationwide. Even if you have certain nationwide brands that's across the country, is going to come from certain areas, unless it's put with a lot of preservatives to have a high shelf life.
I see, because they called Pedigree, the adult complete nutrition grilled steak and vegetable flavored dry dog food. They called that back on the 18th.
That's from the cattle. Yeah, the cows. You just don't get steak and ground beef from cows. Like a cow could provide many things. So, like I said, dog food, scrapple, treats. They use every piece of the cow. So,
yeah, because you see, as of the 11th, 2 days ago, Nutrisystem, Classic Delight in Wakefield, individually wrapped sandwiches, potential contamination with Listeria, monocytogens. See, ground black pepper from Baraka, potential contamination with salmonella, whole cucumbers. We'll leave that right there.
yeah, we're affected with that recall.
All right, I'm sorry. I had to see this because I don't ever remember hearing about any milk. I mean, at this point, we're in April, but as far as on this list, but all right, yeah, I just had to see it for myself. What's going on there, Information Man Show? All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
On top of a looming global disaster, and it's coming. It's amazing. It's happening at the same time the World Health Organization is going to introduce its global pandemic treaty to every nation on the earth and hope that they ratify it.
Right. Another.
What would be better to get them to ratify it than a global pandemic?
And, you know, they might end up culling a lot of these dairy cattle anyway because they don't have workers. The workers are afraid to get tested. And so if they don't have workers, if you don't milk your dairy cows, it kills them anyway. And so
Yes.
The dairy cows don't even have to have bird flu in order to be culled because of the nature of the situation right now, where if you don't have the workers to milk the cows and to run the lot and everything, you're going to lose the cows anyway.
I haven't milked cows for a long, long time, longer than I want to think about. But I did, you know, when I was a teenager, I milked cows. That was one of my jobs that I had before I got married. I lived around a lot of dairy farms, and so being a farm worker was easy work for me. And so I milked cows. I do remember this: cows have to be milked.
Yes.
They have to be milked. Farmers can't go on vacation.
Right.
Dairy cattle have to be milked
Every single day.
So Doc, you're making a very good point. If the farmers and the farm workers are sick, the cattle are in great distress, and they'll have to be put down.
Right. And even if the workers aren't sick, even if they're perfectly healthy, but they're afraid to be tested, then you've lost the worker. So it's a catch-22 situation there.
That's right. And Doc, the workers could be quarantined in their homes,
right?
And their homes could be away from the farms. You know, when I worked on farms, a long time ago as a teenager, I didn't live on the farms. I rode my bicycle to the farms. So if there was a virus and I got locked down, I can't go to the farm. So we're going to see farm workers who are not residents of the farms being locked down and unable, not allowed to leave their homes.
Right.
The next one is, this is summertime. And so what do you have in the summertime? Summer and fall.
Fairs.
County and
fairs.
state fairs.
Yes.
I love fairs, all right? It's as Americana as you can get. Here's another NPR story. Wisconsin fairs required to check cows for bird flu this summer.
And this is from today. This is today's article. Wisconsin dairy cows heading to county fairs and other exhibitions will be required to undergo testing for avian flu this summer. So Wisconsin is concerned about this, says that fairs, rodeos, and similar exhibitions will be required to verify that lactating cows have tested negative for the H5N1 virus within 7 days of moving to the event. The State Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection in Wisconsin announced the new testing requirement just yesterday. It goes into effect on June 19th when the first county fair of the summer begins. And so Wisconsin is already concerned about the possibility of the bird flu spreading further among cattle, specifically at county and state fairs.
Well, shouldn't they be
That's
out
right.
there
And then
right
we have
now?
a report from Radio Iowa, a public broadcast.
What was that?
Like, seriously, everybody should, every dairy farmer out there here in the United States needs to be testing their cattle, their livestock for this virus. They need to be out there like first thing in the morning. I know they have testing kits. Or they can get one. They need to get the testing kits and test their livestock.
Well, you know the FDA is going to be, because that's all governed by the FDA and the USDA. So, and with this, you know the CDC is going to be involved too. So,
yeah, you're like, hey, look, I tested my cattle, my livestock, my chickens, everything. They all appear to be clean. Or I've tested my cattle and something's funny coming out. You guys might want to come out here and take a look. I mean, this goes beyond. I understand that farmers are trying to make a living, and of course, there should be compensation if they have to kill their cattle, not just for the cattle, but also for their workers. But
and for the safety of the population.
Yeah, it's serious business.
Station in the state of Iowa. Iowa Agriculture Secretary seeks federal aid for dairy farms hit by bird flu. So now, Doc, this is the first instance I've seen of state officials making a request to the federal government, basically for emergency funding. You know, they're in a state of emergency. They need federal funds to compensate dairy operations that have been impacted by bird flu.
Right. And it hasn't gone full blown yet. And they're already seeking federal resources here. Iowa State Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig is asking the USDA to compensate dairy operations struck by bird flu. Now, Naig said it's a typical move when there's an animal disease outbreak that leads to the loss of livestock or production. You see a loss of milk production when a herd is affected. So we think it's right that those producers, kind of like a crop insurance type concept, would be compensated for those losses, Naig said. And we are finding that some animals do have to be culled or sold off the farm. Now, mind you, they have not had a full-blown outbreak in Iowa yet. And yet they're seeking federal funds now in anticipation that it's coming. Dr. Jeff Kaysen, the state veterinarian, told legislators earlier today, that being yesterday, that they don't know yet how bird flu is transmitted from cow to cow within a herd, but there is a key sign a dairy operation has cows infected with virus. He said, in certain animals, they'll see very serious drops in milk production. Now, this is first we're hearing this, Rick. The milk may have a yellowish color or colostrum-like color to it, but it does not usually cause major issues in the dairy farm. We've had some reports. There is, for a period of time, about 4 or 5 days, a marked decrease in milk production. And so that is a red flag that's popping up in the state of Iowa right now, that there are incoming reports across the state that the cows just aren't producing milk. And that could be a direct result of infection from the bird flu.
I notice here that Mr. Kaysen said that the infected cattle are basically out of commission for 5 days. Well, that implies that they get over it. You know, that it's a week-long flu. So why are they going to cull dairy cattle? Why are they going to kill dairy cattle? If it only lasts 4 or 5 days, why are they going to slaughter cattle? Think about that. I'm going to talk about it here in a moment. I've got my own ideas about it. Next one, dairy cattle to poultry. ABC News, with 100 million birds dead, poultry industry could serve as an example as dairy farmers confront bird flu.
So what's the solution that the poultry industry has been using? Killing the birds.
Mass culling of the birds.
Right. So the report from ABC News says this: egg operators have become clean freaks, and to prevent disease from spreading, egg producers require workers to shower and change into clean clothes before they enter a barn and shower again when they leave. They also frequently wash trucks and spray tires with solutions to kill off virus remnants. Many egg operators even use lasers and install special fencing to discourage wild birds from stopping by for a visit. Gone is the day of the scarecrow, said Emily Metz, president of the American Egg Board. Dairies can certainly reduce the spread of disease by limiting access to barns so people and equipment don't bring in the virus from elsewhere. Workers could also wear eye protection, aprons, and gloves to try to protect themselves, but there's no way around it. Big animals are messy. The dairy industry could also tamp down disease spread by limiting the movement of lactating cows between states, Polson said. The U.S. Department of Agriculture will soon begin testing a vaccine that could be given to calves, offering the animals protection and also reducing the chance of worker illnesses. Now, the egg industry is also hopeful researchers can develop vaccines for poultry that could be quick, inexpensive, and effective. Workers can't give shots to the millions of hens that might need a vaccine, but industry officials hope a vaccine could be distributed in the water that the birds drink, in the pellets they eat, or even before birds hatch from their eggs. Did you know that vaccines could be distributed in water, Rick?
Yes, I do. I just read it, Doc. And what does that tell us?
That if they wanted to,
they can put vaccines in the drinking water. That's exactly what it means. That the vaccines can be introduced into city drinking water supplies. How could the birds be vaccinated before they're hatched from the eggs? How does that work, Doc?
Well, the only thing I can think, they'd have to spray the eggs, because you're not going to sit there with a needle and do 1 million eggs. There's just no.
Well, that's one. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I didn't think about that. What I thought about was that they will be developing some type of mRNA genetic therapy vaccine that will be given to the chickens, and the chickens, they will automatically pass the vaccine on to their young in the egg.
Right. Yes, that's a possibility too.
Then, if that's correct, I mean, I might be wrong on this. I'm not saying this is the way that they're doing it. You might be right about the spray, but if I'm right about passing it on to the offspring, then it means the same thing for humans.
That's right.
That if you're vaccinated, you will pass on the vaccine to your children. Look, these guys can't talk this way about chickens and then tell me there's something different about humans.
You're right.
Don't tell me that you can put vaccine in the drinking water of chickens, but you won't do it for humans.
Or that you can't spray vaccine onto people either. There's some way they're delivering the vaccine in those eggs, either through the hens or through some sort of external application of some kind. And so they've got a plan, Rick. They really do. But the scary part of the plan is their solution is the ultimate solution. That's to cull either the herds of the dairy cattle, cull the poultry, and that fits right into the green agenda, doesn't it?
It sure is.
Meat is evil, Rick.
Yes, that's where they're going with this. So, let's go back and look at this ABC article. Right now, poultry farms, egg producers are in some states are requiring workers to shower and change clothes before they enter a barn and shower again when they leave. That's happening right now. They're washing trucks, spraying tires. They're using lasers and special fencing to discourage wild birds from just roosting near the farm. Then it says dairies can reduce the spread of the disease by limiting human access to barns. Also limiting the movement of equipment. Farm workers could also be compelled to wear eye protection, aprons, gloves. We're going to have farmers dressed in hazmat suits.
Right.
This is where they're going. And before this year is over, if this virus continues moving at the speed it's going right now, before this summer is over, farms are going to look like a science fiction movie set. Remember the creepy videos we saw coming out of China in 2020 and 2021?
Yes.
Okay, that's where we're headed with farms. And if you don't want to do it, guess what? They're going to lock down your farm and kill your cattle or your poultry.
You're going to submit one way or the other.
That's right. They've got a plan. Australia, the land of freedom, as we saw during COVID. ABC News Australia, this is Australian Broadcasting Corporation, not ABC, not the American Broadcasting Corporation. Fewer eggs on shelves as bird flu calls affect production.
So they've been killing off millions of birds in Australia, just like here in the U.S., and that has already started to affect the egg supply that you'd see at the local market level. So egg producers are warning shoppers of a potential shortage, which means the shortage is coming. It's not potential, from this week as bird flu outbreaks affect production in the Australian state of Victoria.
Hey, Bay, do you remember when we had that problem with the egg production? Like, if I'm correct, it was 8 months ago, where eggs jacked up in price.
Yeah, they were like $9, $10 for a carton.
Yeah.
Now, 4 farms in Victoria's largest egg-producing regions are under quarantine after confirmed outbreaks of 2 different strains of the virus, Rick, also known as bird flu. More than 600,000 egg-laying hens at those farms will be culled in an effort to limit the spread of the virus. And so ABC News there is reporting that the farmers already, by orders of the state, obviously, are already starting to cull their hens. That affects the egg supply. And there are so many repercussions as you start breaking up this agricultural supply chain that affects everything. It affects the price of bread, affects the price of just ordinary foods. You got several components here. You got dairy, you've got poultry. You start interrupting those supply chains within the economy, you affect nearly every item on the grocery shelf.
That's right. A lot of things made with eggs.
You can't make bread without milk and eggs.
And speaking on that, when we had the problem with the egg supply, mayonnaise jumped up almost $2 where I'm at. And what is funny, ever since the thing was over with the egg supply, the price just only went down $1. So right now, a jar of Hellmann's is $6.99 regular price for a 32-ounce jar. And when we had the problem with the eggs, it was like $8.99. It went down. So, and even it affected the store brand labels and all that, the private labels. So even if it's a shortage and it goes up and compound with inflation, it'll go up and probably go down a little bit. At the end of the day, you're going to be paying more money.
I mean, there's so many potentials there.
That's right. And you're going to see this this ripple effect through the food chain. And then there will be a scramble for egg supplies. You're going to see a scramble for egg supplies. The big commercial customers, I'm talking, corporations that are in the food industry, like restaurants, hotels, food processing companies. I mean, tell the folks at Sara Lee they can't buy any more eggs.
Right. That means you can't
They'll
make
go-
cake. You can't make bread. You can't make about 80% of the products that are out there.
Those women will
Well,
scratch your
don't
eyes
you
out.
think the people at Sara Lee know about this?
What was that?
I said those women will scratch your eyes out.
Oh yeah, Duncan Hines.
Yeah, Sara Lee and all them. Go ahead and tell them that they can't make their pastries. See what happens.
Listen, they are already making plans to buy up all the egg supply that they can get.
Certainly. If they're smart, they are. You'd
Wait,
want
roll
them
that
to,
back.
wouldn't you?
Roll that back about 10
Well,
seconds.
yes,
All right.
except it could mean that you can't get any egg. A scramble for egg supplies. You're going to see a scramble for egg supplies. The big commercial customers, I'm talking, corporations that are in the food industry, like restaurants, hotels, food processing companies. I mean, tell the folks at Sara Lee they can't buy any more eggs.
Right. That means you can't
They'll
make
go-
cake. You can't make bread. You can't make about 80% of the products that are out there.
Well, don't you think the people at Sara Lee know about this and they are already making plans to buy up all the egg supply that they can get?
Certainly. If they're smart, they are. You'd want them to, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, except
If you're the person that likes scrambled eggs, if this happens, go to your frozen food aisle and get the frozen egg yolks. Or if you're the health nut, get the egg whites. They come refrigerated in the dairy aisle, or you could get it frozen.
it could mean that you can't get any eggs later this year.
Well, if I can't get any eggs, do I have an alternative, Rick?
Yes. And you can only get it while we can get it. Okay, so
That's what the nature reserves. They're about to push their ready-made foods and all that. So I'm gonna fast forward that.
we're not in a crisis. It's really strapping me. I knew what I was getting into when I did the third way.
And I told them what it was. It was
Store
of bird flu vaccines already would be in addition developed by University of Pennsylvania.
Voice of America News, scientists test mRNA vaccines to protect against bird flu. Go ahead, Doc. I'll let you read it.
Okay, well, scientists are testing those next generation vaccines to deal with the spread of bird flu in the U.S. The vaccines use the very same mRNA technology that led to the development of the COVID-19 shots in what they're saying is record time. VOA News reports that the U.S. Ag Department is planning to test a vaccine developed by University of Pennsylvania researchers by giving it to cows in order to protect farm workers. They say this could lessen the chance for the virus to jump into people and mutate or change in ways that could cause human-to-human spread. Meanwhile, officials at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services have been talking to drug makers about possible mRNA flu vaccines for people. These mRNA vaccines would be in addition to the millions of bird flu vaccines already in government hands. It goes on to say in this article, if there's a pandemic, there's going to be a huge demand for vaccine. That's coming from Richard Webby, a flu researcher at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. The more vaccines, the better, he added. It goes on to say that Moderna already has a bird flu mRNA vaccine in very early testing in humans. In a statement, Moderna said that they are in discussions with the U.S. government on advancing our pandemic flu candidate. Similar work has been going on at Pfizer. Company researchers in December gave human volunteers at an mRNA vaccine against a version of bird flu that is somewhat similar to the one in cows. Since then, researchers have performed a lab experiment exposing blood samples from those volunteers to the version seen in dairy cows. And Pfizer said in a statement that they saw notable increases in antibody responses. Now, obviously,
disclaimer, if you took the jab, that is your choice. We're not urging no one. We're not health experts. We're not advertising or urging anybody that may be watching or may watch this stream in a replay to take anything. We're just presenting the information. Is there anything you want to say right now, Bay?
Yes. We are not sponsored by Red Rock Ginger Ale. That was just me being funny. Drinking the soda that's not a soda. I don't need them coming after us. Say Pfizer should be canceled. Maybe. I know, but you know, their government control, probably a government facility as it is, going by a pseudonym like Pfizer. There's no telling where the rabbit hole goes, but this right here, it's going to be, and I just thought about it. Summer hasn't really begun yet.
Yeah.
Summer hasn't really begun yet.
And I got a little conspiracy theory going up in my head. Maybe this will be the excuse to keep the population under control, since this election is very heated, to prevent civil unrest. Maybe.
Depends on what's going on over there in the Middle East and Ukraine.
Yeah, we're not political pundits. We're not insiders with the government. We don't know. We're just speculating. We have to constantly give out these disclaimers.
Yeah, because you don't want to be inside the government without protection. But outside of that, we need to actually cover the war, seeing how the U.S. government has acknowledged that there are Russian ships right there floating in Cuban waters. What is that, 90 miles away?
I'm going to end this right now because they're going to be talking about just their theories on the vaccine and all that, and that's not really
kosher to what we're doing here.
Yeah.
All right, understandable.
I'm going to pull up some, go somewhere else. Go ahead, do what you got to do. Ranger.
Had to use quick reflexes there. All right, so anything else we need to dive into concerning this? Or
no, that's it. That's it.
All right, well, I guess we'll catch you all on the next edition. By then, we'll have everything for the actual channel. It's created, it's just not up yet, but it'll be ready to go. It'll be ready to go real soon. So you guys remember, be safe. As you can see, there are certain situations going on in the world concerning the meats. I go to the Asian store where I get my meats from. I watch them cut it up right there. They have a glass butcher shop in the back in the meat department. That's good to see. They also do that with fish where it's fresh. Excuse me, but now's the time to stock up. I've been screaming it for a year.
Yeah, me going on 2 years. And also, you might want to invest in alternative forms of protein that is really more healthier for you, like beans, lentils, stuff like that. Get the dry beans or the canned beans. If you don't know, for those that are not that savvy in the kitchen, you get your canned beans. But if you know you like your dry beans, make sure you soak them 12 hours to a day before to get all the ammonia out of them. Something you learned from your mother and your grandmother. they knew how to cook, but that's a story for
Hopefully.
another day.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so let's get out of here. All right, you guys take care. Be safe out there. And remember, only you can save you. Peace.